This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. The final farewell was made in Israel today for a Canadian killed in the October 7th attacks. Her name was Vivien Silver, and she was born and raised in Winnipeg. The Middle East conflict that took her life was a conflict she'd spent her life trying to end. CBC's Ellen Morrow has the story.
For those who loved Vivien Silver, the grief is unbearable. Hundreds came to a kibbutz Silver helped create, here to honor the Canadian-Israeli peace activist.
She was my hero.
Silver's younger sister flew in from Winnipeg.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable to see so many people here and how important she was to everybody. And she had so much belief in what she was doing.
We're going to stop on your way out at the Gaza border crossing.
Silver gave tours of the Gaza border, raising awareness of the struggles faced by her Palestinian neighbors, decades dedicated to pushing for peace.
Building trust is the most important factor in our world here.
Silver was killed in the Hamas attacks of October 7th. Her sons now deep in mourning. I still cannot accept the fact that there will be grandchildren who will not know you, cries Hen Zeigen. I love you. Thank you for everything. Silver's brother Neil traveled from Calgary.
I will miss hearing her voice and above all, hearing her wonderful laugh. I can't believe I won't see her again.
It was thought Silver was among the more than 200 hostages being held by Hamas, but her remains were identified this week. Many Israelis support the war after the brutality of October 7th, but Silver's son, Yonatan Zeigen, says it's not what his mother would have wanted. We will continue to persevere and strive to bring the tomorrow you always spoke of, he says. People here refusing to allow Silver's dream to die with her.
Vivien is a special woman.
Amira Zaidan worked alongside Silver on peace campaigns.
It's not important to her if you're Arabic or if you're Jewish. We are the same. This is the way of Vivien.
A song to end the service. The women with blue scarves, members of Silver's organization Women Wage Peace, founded after the last war in Gaza. For them, Silver's memory will be a blessing. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Kibbutz Gezer.
A Winnipeg MP is raising concerns about a university event he believes will give rise to anti-Semitism. Ben Carr says he won't tell the University of Winnipeg what to do about a pro-Palestinian event, but he believes the university has a duty to present the counter-narrative. For more, CBC's Ian Fraze joins us now to explain. Ian, tell us what this event is about.
It's happening late next week at the University of Winnipeg, a reading and a talk. An advertisement for this event considers what's happening in Palestine now and in the past to be a genocide. Winnipeg South Centre MP Ben Carr says at first glance the university is abdicating its responsibility to academic integrity by hosting this event. He says the university needs to provide an explanation.
I have a deep respect for academic freedom. My trouble with this particular conference is that it does not appear to provide in any way, shape, or form a counter-narrative or a diversity of viewpoints that would challenge the premise of what the speakers that have been invited are offering.
One of those speakers, Gada Sassa, blames Israel for a lot of the deaths when Hamas attacked a music festival a month ago.
Even about the rave, I was reading about the rave, and I was reading a lot of the people who were killed were actually killed by Israel. Like, I was reading accounts from like the Israelis who were at the rave saying like, yeah, Hamas was not trying to kill us, and then the Israelis were just firing at us. And
The podcast host interjected right at that moment, saying he hasn't seen any evidence to that effect. SASA did not agree to our interview request. The University of Winnipeg, though, just responded, saying it needs a few days to provide comment. I did speak with the head of the Jewish Federation of Winnipeg. He told me that the president of the university told him that this event is not sanctioned by the U of W, but organized by a few faculty members. We are reaching out to those speakers for comment. This is a developing story. Marjorie.
Thank you very much, Ian. That is CBC's Ian Fraze reporting tonight. Winnipeg police are investigating a suspicious death after a body was found in the Point Douglas area. Police were called to the area just west of the Red River and north of Michael Jean Park on Tuesday morning. Officers discovered the body of a man in the 100 block of Selkirk Avenue. Today, police confirmed the homicide unit is investigating the death. Police did not release any other details, such as his age or name. Anyone with information is asked to call police. Residents in St. Norbert want to save a piece of the Lange Forest from a housing development, and today they got support from a city committee. Cameron McLean reports.
This is Lange Forest, covering about 80 acres along the Red River. A developer says they want to turn this 22-acre section into affordable housing. But Stacey Gossman and other residents launched a petition to keep the forest intact.
Our main concern is about saving one of the last riparian forests in the city that's untouched. And it helps maintain land from erosion. It has certain types of plants that will be flood tolerant, will handle the spring breakup.
St. Norbert Seine River Councillor Marcus Chambers brought a motion to the Riel committee today. He wants the city to negotiate a purchase price with the developer.
To look if there are partners and stakeholders that are willing to partner with the city of Winnipeg to potentially buy these lands and other forested areas so that we can preserve these green spaces.
The part of the Lange Forest that would be developed starts here at the edge of the Behavioral Health Foundation property and runs east to the Laureate Academy. Right now, the only way to get in is to cross private property. The developer says their plan would give easier access to Indigenous groups that use the land for ceremonies. To do that, they would try to preserve as much of the forest as possible.
I think it's a great site for housing. Others don't.
Professional planner John Wintrip represents Total Developments.
It would be assisted, affordable housing that's also accessible for a diversity of people who really need housing today. Manitoba and Winnipeg's population is growing more and more diverse. We'd like to be able to accommodate that housing.
The Riel committee today unanimously rejected that plan. The motion to instead buy the land will go before the Property and Development Committee next month, before moving on to Council. If approved, the city would then need to find room for it in next year's budget. It last sold for about $1.5 million. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Today is the anniversary of the 1885 execution of Louis Riel. There were several events today, one at his grave in St. Boniface. The Red River Rebellion, led by Riel, was pivotal in Manitoba entering Confederation. And last month, the new provincial government said one of its first acts would be to designate Riel Manitoba's honorary first premier. Riel was executed 15 years after Red River, convicted of treason for leading the ill-fated Northwest Rebellion in what is now Saskatchewan. Manitoba's government is inviting people inside the legislature for the holidays for the first time since 2019. Premier Wab Kinew has revived the holiday open house at the Legislative Building. You can tour the ledge on December 2nd. The event was canceled during the first years of the pandemic and continued to be canceled because of construction inside the building and protests outside over vaccine mandates. Kinew says extra security will be on hand for the event this year.
We live in a free society, and we live in a democracy, and people deserve to have access to the seat of your democracy, which is this building. We are lucky in Manitoba to have such a beautiful legislature, and it would be a shame for me if this building were to be closed off from the people who have the right to vote to send us here to work. This is a building where everyone in Manitoba should feel welcome.
while in opposition, Canoe promised to bring back the holiday tour. A group of high school students were surprised this morning with a gift to help them pursue careers in animation, game design, and motion graphics. CBC's Zubina Ahmed brings you more.
There were tears of joy and surprise this morning when 60 students in Sislers Create program were gifted high-end drawing tablets. 19-year-old Kaya Scholz is a post-high student in the Entertainment Arts Training Program at Ecole Sisler High School.
I was blown away. I was not expecting it at all. It's kind of a dream, like, to get a tablet like this. I thought maybe one day I'd just end up buying one, but this is amazing.
Scholz is pursuing a career in 2D animation and thinks this tablet will be extremely helpful.
It's going to help me in every way. Just even right now I'm working on a mentorship project, so when I'm doing work at home, it'll help me. I won't have to just keep all my work at school now. And for all future projects, even after I'm done this program, I'll be using it for everything. So.
The tablets were given by the Schroeder Foundation and Wacom Canada to these students. James Leduc leads the post-high program at Sisler, where graduating students work with industry mentors to learn animation, game design, or film.
What it's going to do is going to allow them to continue working at home, developing their craft a little bit more. So the students really need students that are coming into our program, some of them are coming from other schools, so this will allow them to actually develop those skills, those animation skills, a little bit further outside the classroom.
The Schroeder Foundation also announced support for students to travel to Los Angeles and Montreal to pitch their projects to some of the world's biggest animation studios.
Our 2D animation group, which is 24 of them, will be going down to Burbank, California to Nickelodeon, and they're going to be presenting their end-of-the-year projects there at the end of May to all their mentors. So all the mentors from Jamfield and Paramount and Sony and Nickelodeon are all going to be there in person. Our students are going to be there in person. This is going to be the first time ever that everyone's coming together.
Aileen's son is working on a mentorship program with Nickelodeon.
Tablets, they're industry standard, and my old tablet, although it worked well, there was some limitations, so it would take a lot of time to get the lines right because I would have to look at a screen, which was different. So now I can do things much more quicker, and I'll get more work done.
Sun is thrilled as she will get to keep the tablet after graduation and hope it will help her become a full-time animator. Zabina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
CBC weather specialist Riley Alechuk joins us now. And Riley, what a start to today. We had snow, and we actually had quite a bit of snow. There was actually snowfall warnings that were issued this morning.
Yeah, we did have snowfall warnings issued initially for the Brandon region and then for the areas just north and west of the city. Generally 5 centimeters of snow in the early part of this morning. I did see a 6 in Southdale and some parts of Westman getting up to 8 overnight.
Wow.
So. Yeah, a little bit of snow, but followed by some very nice sunshine.
Yeah.
And we're heading into an evening with clear skies, as you see on satellite radar right now, and a little bit of high weather cloud to the north. And we could see some flurries maybe through the evening through parts of northern Manitoba. But yeah, bright sunny afternoon through southern Manitoba certainly did help melt some of that snow. But the trade-off is as temperatures have cooled, yeah, it's really kind of made things a little bit slippery, especially on the sidewalks as we head into the evening. So heading into the night tonight, we're expecting clear skies to remain, maybe a little bit of passing cloud first thing in the morning tomorrow and a chance of flurries in the north. But overall tomorrow looking like another nice sunny day in southern Manitoba. Certainly looking like we're going to see temperatures above normal once again as we head through Friday. Then we get a bit of a ridge of high pressure building in, and this is going to allow our skies to remain clear really throughout the weekend. So we're looking at a fairly calm weekend weather-wise and much sunnier conditions and much more stable conditions. I did mention maybe some flurries in the north. Thought I'd show you the projected snowfall for northern Manitoba. Really not a lot. We're looking at trace to maybe 2 centimeters through parts of northeastern Manitoba, but generally we're just looking at some passing flurries as we head through the evening tonight and through the day on Thursday. -4 in Winnipeg right now. Pressure is rising. We saw a really windy afternoon here in southern Manitoba. Winds out of the northwest really put a bite in those conditions through the afternoon today. We did get up to 2 degrees early this afternoon, or early this morning, I should say. It's about 6 o'clock when we saw the forecast high for today. We're looking at a low of -5 in Winnipeg under a few clouds tonight. Winds out of the west at 20 kilometers an hour. Into tomorrow morning, we are looking at a temperature of -2, a mainly sunny sky as well, with winds out of the west at 20, gusting to 40. And then another banner day above seasonal for this time of the year once again, but watch those winds again. Probably won't feel as cold with that breeze tomorrow afternoon because we'll see winds out of the west tomorrow, but certainly will be another gusty. But the trade-off, like I said, being another really sunny day through the afternoon tomorrow. So like I mentioned, we're staying above seasonal as we head through the weekend. Mainly sunny skies, 5 degrees for both Saturday and Sunday. We do have a chance of maybe some flurries through the afternoon on Monday with also a high of 5 degrees. There's also something happening on Saturday that we should probably start talking about now. Yes, that is the Santa Claus Parade making its way through downtown Winnipeg, but Brandon's also happening on Saturday early evening as well. Block party happening, light winds, 3 degrees starting at about 4 o'clock. The parade itself starting at 5 will be about 0 by the time we get there with those light winds and a mainly clear sky. So you're really going to want to bundle for that. So as I was mentioning, Marge, downtown is expected to be a busy place on Saturday afternoon. The early serving of Christmas cheer, of course, but also there is a hockey game making a lot of stuff happening all at once here in the downtown.
That's right, Riley. The annual Santa Claus Parade will make its way down Portage Avenue at 5 p.m. And then the Winnipeg Jets are also playing at home. Puck drop is set for 6 p.m.
I spoke with Parade Director Monica Dirksen about how to best take in the parade and navigate downtown. Have a look. Monica, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So, first of all, for those who have never experienced, what is the Santa Claus Parade like here in Winnipeg?
Well, we have over 110 years of tradition here, so it's quite a big deal. We have over 50 floats this year entered, including, the magical man himself, Santa, following at the end. We have block parties from 4 to 5, so if you want to come and scope out your spot ahead of time, you can do that. There's some games on the street and some treats along the way.
A lot of road closures, I guess, happening through the day on Saturday. What should people know, I guess, if they're coming into the downtown? Or are there places that you recommend people park and walk? Or
Yeah, with over 40,000 people coming, it is the biggest event in Winnipeg, so it does slow down traffic a little bit. So we just tell people to be very patient, take a lot of time ahead of time to come in. You can park in the outskirts, so we recommend, especially if you're going to the Jets game after, to park on the south side of Portage, so whether that's at the Forks or St. Boniface, and walk in. It's supposed to be a lovely day, so have a little walk. And then you can park anywhere north too, of course. It's just if you are trying to get to the arena afterwards, if you stay south, that's probably your best bet.
Yeah. So you're talking about block parties. Tell me about the block party experience and what people can expect.
Yeah, so different companies are hosting them. Recycle Everywhere, Manitoba Hydro, the Southern Chiefs near the Old Bay building. So basically what they do is they come and set up some games and activities in normal years to keep people warm while they wait. This year maybe that's not needed. But yeah, so that some people have some snacks and treats. A lot of them have activities to get involved in, whether it's, big board games on the ground or whether it's shinny hockey or that kind of stuff, just to kind of keep you entertained and moving while you wait.
So maybe just in broad terms, just to tell me about the route this year and where you guys recommend people watch if they want a real good view of Santa.
Yeah.
And of course the rest of the floats. But
yeah, so we start at Portage and Main at 5 o'clock. And then we head west, like I said, near the Old Bay building. We turn south there towards the legislature. So it formally ends at York Avenue. So yeah, anywhere along the road is good, depending on where you're coming from and where you're leaving after. All of the spots are great. So the block activities are more towards the center of the route, so if you're interested in that, maybe head more towards the center. But yeah, there's really no bad spot to watch it. It's pretty magical all the way down.
And worth noting, this year we're back to an early evening start time, correct?
Yeah, so based on feedback and just 15 years of tradition, we wanted to stick with our regular 5 p.m. slot. We get the magic of the lights then, right? Because it gets dark, and so it's always nice. All the volunteers put so much time into decorating those floats. We want to really have them sparkle.
Yeah, I know the city's been out putting up their lights as well, and of course we're here in the festive Fairmont. What's it like, as we build up here to the days ahead to see everything just kind of coming into place?
Yeah, it's so fun, right? It's the unofficial kickoff of the season, so the first big Christmas thing. So yeah, Fairmont and Hydro and all, our partners are all decorating for the season. The city is lighting their tree on Thursday, so it's just nice to see that magical time of year come to life.
Are there any floats in particular that you're looking for?
I mean, always Santa.
Yeah,
that's the biggest and the best and the brightest. But yeah, we have a lot of returning ones, and this year we have several new ones too. So we're very excited about that. We're excited to see what people come out with. We have some walking groups, some drum lines. So yeah, something for everyone. We've got some horses and some dogs, and just something for everyone.
I say something for everyone.
Yeah.
And if people are coming down to watch, what should they know about what to bring, where to go?
Yeah. So basically, again, patience is the name of the game. There's a lot of people. Dress in layers, because after the sun goes down, even though it's 2 degrees during the day, it still does cool off. And the parade is about 45 minutes to an hour long, but depending on where you're sitting, it could take a little while to get to you.
Okay.
So it could be about an hour and a half or 2 hour wait, depending on where you're stationed. So just dress for it. Bring some hot chocolate or some coffee in a thermos. Feel free to bring a lawn chair if you can find a spot for it. We don't mind that. We just ask that you stay off of the street itself for safety's sake. But other than that, yeah, just come and just be prepared for a little bit of make an evening of it.
How many people does it take to put something like this together every year?
Yeah.
Like, it must take a lot of people, a lot of volunteer time.
We've got a great dedicated team every year, and yeah, lots of volunteers. We've got at least 60 costume walkers this year, so you'll see them in the parade. We've got hundreds of people helping us on the street to help keep everybody safe. And just lots of partners and vendors and supporters every year who come back and support this to make sure it happens every year.
Yeah. Is there anything else you think people should know about the Santa Claus Parade this year? Whether it be, where to come, how to come?
Yeah, no, I mean, this is the second year of this route, and the first year we're doing it at night with this route, so we're excited. It's a little bit new, but other than that, it's pretty much what you're used to. So if you've been before, you know the rules, you know the game. It's the same thing with some new floats thrown in. And because the Jets game is an hour after we start, we're just asking people, be courteous and patient. And if you have seen the Santa float go by and you think you're not ready to go home yet, jump into the arena. I'm sure there's still tickets available, so grab some of those and then extend your evening.
Monica, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So she says patience is key there, of course, and don't forget, of course, there will be a number of road closures for Santa and his entourage. The parade starts at Portage in Maine. It'll move west from there down Portage Avenue to Memorial and then head south to Broadway. Now the streets will be completely closed, so you'll have to stick to the sidewalks, of course, Marge.
Yeah, so the surrounding streets will also be impacted in some way, either with turning restrictions or access to businesses or parkades only. You can see those markings there in yellow, so make sure that you give yourself plenty of time to get downtown. You may have to park a bit further and walk in. Now, for more information, you can check the City of Winnipeg's website. Still ahead, Israeli forces continue to make their way through the Al-Shifa Hospital complex. They released this unverified video from the raid showing what they say are weapons that were being stored inside the complex. We will have more on the situation in the Middle East coming up. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Concern deepened today around the fate of patients inside Gaza's Al-Shifa Hospital. Access and communication remain blocked, and the World Health Organization is facing obstacles as it tries to organize an evacuation. It's the focal point right now of Gaza's humanitarian crisis. CBC's Sasha Petrusik reports.
As Israel's massive military operation continues, Gaza's hospitals feel the strain. Already overrun with civilian casualties, they face the breaking point since Gaza's biggest medical center, Al-Shifa, is out of commission. We don't have beds or resources, says this doctor at Indonesia Hospital. It is now closed. At Al-Shifa, Israeli soldiers search room by room for signs of a Hamas base.
What we have found, I think, is only the tip of the iceberg.
A narrated video released by the Israeli army shows guns inside.
There is an AK-47.
And then today, the military said it found a tunnel shaft with a vehicle underground. But so far, no evidence of the large command center Israel said was beneath the hospital. Hamas denies it exists.
There is no center or control room for Hamas in this hospital. We avoid all the hospitals all the time.
At the hospital, troops did find the body of an Israeli hostage, Yehudit Weiss, kidnapped on October 7th. With no let-up in fighting, no word on the ceasefire urged by the UN Security Council, its human rights chief warns that fuel will soon run out in Gaza,
leading to the complete collapse of water, sewage, and crucial healthcare services. Massive outbreaks of infectious disease and hunger seem inevitable.
Gaza civilians say they're facing much of that already. Many have fled from the north to escape Israel's airstrikes. They've now received flyers from the Israeli army saying parts of the south will soon be hit as well. Where are we supposed to go? He asks. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Toronto.
A small fishing town in southwestern Iceland is on high alert. Authorities are monitoring the buildup of magma underneath the community, and a series of recent quakes have raised worries about a possible volcanic eruption. Chris Brown has that story.
The town of Grindavik is broken and scorched. Enormous fissures have opened up, caused by hundreds of tremors rattling the earth and people's nerves.
There is some volcanic activity going on, very high activity, so we had to take measures and evacuate the whole town.
Authorities have started to reinforce key infrastructure, such as power plants, and there's great uncertainty about when, if ever, almost 4,000 evacuees will be able to move back to their homes.
Yesterday I waited on the other side for 5 hours just to go home to get some stuff.
I don't think we'll ever feel safe after knowing what has happened there.
A large reservoir of magma has spread out roughly 800 meters below the Reykjanes Peninsula. A small finger of lava from the same magma field broke through 3 times in recent years, creating a fiery, popular tourist attraction. And the window for a major eruption could still be several weeks away, says this volcanologist.
In all cases, the earthquake activity declined just before the little dike or little finger of magma made it to the surface. So I don't think we should say now it's not going to happen.
Iceland was created by volcanoes, and people have always lived with them. But this area had been eruption-free for centuries. And what's happened over the last few days has shocked people, says this journalist.
I mean, we have always known that volcanoes can be pretty tricky neighbors. You know, you have to take them into account, but we are just not used to them this close to the most densely populated areas of Iceland.
Icelanders founded Grindavik more than 1,000 years ago, but with the damage that's already been done, residents fear that long history may be at an end. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
A jury has found Nathaniel Veltman guilty in the deadly attack on a Muslim family in London, Ontario, nearly 2.5 years ago. The verdict drew emotional reaction inside the courtroom today, and many in the community feel the healing itself may take much longer. Chris Ensing reports.
Inside the courtroom, gasps and tears as the jury announced its verdict. Nathaniel Veltman guilty of 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. On June 6, 2021, Veltman used his truck to kill 4 members of the Afzal family, murdering 3 generations of the Pakistani Muslim family and seriously injuring a 9-year-old boy. The jury's decision was made after 6 hours of deliberation, reviewing 10 weeks of evidence introduced at trial, including a video confession to officers hours after the attack and pieces of a manifesto written to share his white national beliefs. The Crown said that Veltman did this to send a brutal message to Muslims and to intimidate them. Outside the courthouse, relatives thanked the Crown while asking people to reflect on the night of the attack nearly 2.5 years ago.
This trial forced us to return to that intersection once again. The dreadful crossroads where the very best and worst of humanity converged 2.5 years ago.
You can't deny the feelings of fear that people might experience, but this is an important step towards making our streets safer. And the fear is real. We have many of our community members who are visibly Muslim, and they continue to express, fears of walking down the street.
Today, the defense said that they will consider all of their options moving forward. We're expecting that a sentencing hearing will take place in December. Veltman will be given life with no chance to apply for parole for 25 years. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor.
1 year after a drought, Somalia has a serious shortage of fuel and food because of flooding. That story is coming up. Stay with us. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Thousands of homes remain flooded and lives disrupted in parts of Somalia. More than 30 people have died since October as torrential rains inundated many regions. It's an extreme reversal for a country that just last year suffered its worst drought in 4 decades. Ethel Musa has the details.
In southern Somalia, roads turned into rivers. We can't bring goods by plane, says this shop owner. There is a serious shortage of goods, fuel, and food. Another disaster just a year after severe drought brought Somalia to the brink of famine. Now, heavy rains are causing extreme flooding in what the UN calls a once-in-a-century event, threatening the lives and livelihoods of at least 4.3 million people. UN officials now warn a quarter of the country's population face crisis-level hunger or worse by year's end. And that's not the only danger. We can't go to some of the places in town, says this local resident. Because of the high water levels, we are afraid of crocodiles and other animals in the water. Officials say the flooding has already killed dozens and displaced nearly 500,000 people, and it could get worse as Somalia's heavy seasonal downpours are made worse by El Niño, a climate pattern typically associated with increased rainfall in the Horn of Africa.
Somalia is a country at the sharp edge of climate change, despite scarcely contributing any emissions itself. Droughts, floods, tropical storms are all too common. They're a big driver of the humanitarian crisis there. What we've really seen this year and across the last couple of years is just that pattern dialed up to 11, taken to the worst extremes.
The UN has released $25 million in emergency aid, but officials say Somalia needs more than money. It needs sustained international help to adapt and withstand the effects of climate change in the future. Ethel Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
Weather Update is brought to you by the Art and Beauty of the National Ballet of Ukraine, January 29th at the Burton Cummings Theatre. Tickets at nationalballetukraine.com.
Okay, so ballet on the field, on the turf, the Bombers, tangling with the Montreal Alouettes. It's going to be exciting for Grey Cup.
Exciting, and weather's not looking bad for Grey Cup.
Okay.
I will give you that, because last year, you think back to Grey Cup, it was about -5 or so at kickoff, progressively getting cooler in Regina through the course of the game, of course. Complete opposite this year in Hamilton, Ontario. We can take a look at the graphic that I have here for Grey Cup. Early look at the forecast, I guess, for Grey Cup weekend. And this is looking at Sunday here, of course. Kickoff happening at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, our time, 6 o'clock Eastern. Looking at a temperature of about 4 degrees in Hamilton. Winds really won't be much of a factor either. We're looking at winds out of the northwest at 10. Partly cloudy sky. There is a slim chance of maybe a shower through southern Ontario in the earlier part of Sunday, but certainly in time for the game. Should be a partly cloudy sky. Not much wind to speak of either. So that is looking a lot nicer, of course, than last year's Grey Cup with the cooler temperatures that we saw for last year. So I want to talk about the winds here at home for a second as well, because boy, oh boy, it was gusty out there this afternoon. If you were out walking, you certainly felt that nip in the air with the winds gusting up to 50 kilometers an hour. Tonight, we're looking at winds really dropping off as we get through the evening tonight, shifting around before we land at things out of the west by the time we get to lunchtime tomorrow. Winds out of the west, 20 gusting to about 40 at times through the afternoon, so won't be as strong as today, but certainly you'll feel it as we get into the later part of Friday as well, before things kind of die off for the weekend. At -5 in Brandon right now, -4 in Melita. Certainly some cooler temperatures where we've seen some clearer skies earlier in the evening here. -4 in Winnipeg, and we're seeing minus double digits in Churchill at -10 right now. Tonight we are looking at a clearing sky across much of the the province, we're looking at a temperature of -4 in Dryden and Fort Frances, -6 in Red Lake on the way for tonight. We're looking at partly cloudy skies as well for southern Manitoba, -5s for the most part, some -4s on the map there. Pretty much the same as well for the southwestern part of the province, a bit cooler in Brandon at -6, and in northern Manitoba, slim chance we could see some flurries pretty much region-wide through the evening tonight. And yeah, getting down to some minus double digits here, -15 in Thompson, -16 in Lynn Lake overnight tonight. Warming up into single digits, some below zero still through northeastern Manitoba for tomorrow. Looking at highs of 4 degrees for the southwest, 6 in Morden Winkler. Normal highs still -2 for this time of the year. And yeah, we'll be above that pretty easily here in the southeast as well. 4 in Winnipeg and Steinbach tomorrow. 2 in Barons River, a 3-degree high in Pinawa, and pretty much the same for northwestern Ontario as well. A bit more cloud cover as we wait to see that system from today exiting out of the region. A little bit more cloud than sun for Red Lake, but we'll see some sunny breaks through the rest of northwestern Ontario. Marge, reality check coming in your 7-day forecast, and I'll have that when I come back a little bit later.
All right. Thank you very much, Riley.
You're welcome.
Still ahead, in neighborhoods throughout the city, you may have noticed tall, multi-family housing units popping up where once there was a smaller single-family home. Coming up, we'll hear what Winnipeg's mayor has to say about new zoning changes that would make building those homes easier. Stay with us. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. You may have noticed tall, multi-family housing units popping up where once there was a single family home, and more may be coming. Proposed changes to the city's zoning rules went through the Executive Policy Committee this week. Those changes would make it easier for developers to build more housing and will be necessary to access almost $200 million in federal funding. But the idea has faced criticism. Information Radio's Marcy Marcusa spoke with Winnipeg's mayor this morning about why he supports the idea. Here's a portion of that interview.
To access the funding, to get more housing, there's certain stipulations. Can you speak to those in the city who are listening about why you believe this could be the right way forward for our city in terms of building?
Well, first of all, the fund that we have applied to the federal government for is a fund that the feds are rolling out across Canada. Many other cities have made these changes, and the reason we're making the changes is because the federal government, frankly, is imposing them on us. They said if you want access to the funds, you need to make these changes. So the changes that I proposed in the motion that was adopted at Executive Policy Committee are changes that reflect what the federal government is requiring us to do. These are changes to our application. They're not changes to the zoning bylaw yet, because there will be an entire separate process to change the zoning bylaw. And that would require a public hearing. That would open the opportunity for members of the public, other councillors, members of the community to participate in that bylaw hearing process. What is yet to be defined, and we're still working on it, there'd still be rules around it. It wouldn't be the Wild West where you could just build 4 stories anywhere on any lot, because there's still requirements for height and lot size and front yards and side yard setbacks. So there's a lot of work yet to do. But Marcy, as you said off the top, we need housing in this city. We need housing for seniors, for newcomers, for students. We need affordable and deeply affordable housing. We need to build housing. And what I do not want to see is I don't want to see Winnipeg fall behind other cities across this country that are accessing this funding and are receiving this funding. And so we'll continue to work for a Made in Winnipeg solution, but getting access to these funds is really important, because this funding will unlock private investment funding. It'll unlock non-for-profit builders as well.
So for clarity then, based on what you've said, for residents who are concerned about, as you nodded to, the character of neighborhoods being affected, balconies overlooking, backyards, and really at the heart of it, we heard, the right to appeal something if they don't feel it's right in their neighborhood, if somebody feels like our whole street doesn't want this. Do they lose that if we make the changes the feds want to access this funding, or can people still appeal processes?
In some cases, there would be as of right. So yes, a property owner would have the right to build in accordance with the rules that we set out. And in that case, there would not be an opportunity to appeal. However, I think what's also important to remind everybody is that where changes like this have taken place, for example, in Minneapolis, the entire state of California, the change has been very gradual. There hasn't been 4-story buildings, with 4 units built, all across the cities and the communities immediately. The change has been gradual, and someone did say one of the clips we heard is that cities do change. What we're really doing, what I want us to be doing, is taking a look, Marcy, at what kind of city do we need, not just today, what do we need 20 years from now? Those are the decisions we have to make at council. We have to make long-term decisions. We need housing, our city's growing, and we need to make sure there's places for people to live.
I think a lot of people look around now and already feel like it's a problem. We see a lot of, the small house knocked down, something really tall built beside. People are already responding, and they might be looking at this as saying, wow, we already have tons of this type of building for density in Winnipeg. What does this next step mean? What kinds of things do you want further discussion on to make sure it doesn't get out of hand then? As you're saying, there's other places where it hasn't in your view, but for the Winnipeg experience, what would you say to people who have that worry or still not really trusting that this is going to be the right thing for us?
I think what residents need to have, and as do council, as does our staff and builders, we need certainty and predictability. And so we need to establish a set of rules around what can be built and where it can be built. The federal government's requirements that are imposing on us are actually in some ways fairly broad. There's not a lot of specificity. What we're trying to do right now is build in that specificity and really define what it is that can be built. What can be built on a certain lot size.
Do you see anything out there right now in Winnipeg where you're like, oh, that actually is too close to a fence or too tall or not right for this neighborhood? Or so far as mayor, when you look around, do you think that we've done okay?
I think for the most part, we're doing okay. I acknowledge this. I acknowledge that in some neighborhoods are more affected by infill than others. And I served for 8 years as a city councillor and was on the appeal committee's rotation often. I would, make decisions on these
What
bills.
neighborhoods are you thinking of?
Well, I know that Councillor Mays in St. Vital has talked about certain areas that he's, been dealing with and certain areas for Councillor Orlico in River Heights. In St. James, when I was city councillor, we had some infill development that some members of the community were opposed to as well. When we look, though, at the broader need of our community, two things I would emphasize once again. We need housing. We need it built. And I don't want to be... We can't be leaving federal money on the table that will leverage private sector investment. We can't fall behind other cities across this country. So we will find a Made in Winnipeg solution, but it's important that we say yes to these funds.
We have multi-layers of housing needs when it comes to housing as well. So I wonder about when we talk about affordable housing, rental units, we need housing in areas that have access to grocery stores. How will you make sure that this doesn't sort of snowball and add housing on paper, but it doesn't turn into developers looking to make a quick profit, tearing down houses in affluent neighborhoods, putting up fourplexes, and then they're collecting big rent checks, but it doesn't get to the heart of our affordable housing issues?
Well, a couple of things that we have to make sure we do, and we can't lose sight of what our application was. We have made an application that has to the federal government with 7 priorities, and those priorities are range, and they would ensure that 25% of what we're looking to do is to build affordable housing. And so there's 7 priorities we have. One is around affordable housing. One is around adding servicing capacity, infrastructure, wastewater capacity, for example.
Can this money flow to affordable housing?
Yes.
Yes.
This money can unlock and incentivize and encourage affordable housing. In fact, that's specifically in our application. And we have to report back to the federal government on how we're doing against our targets to get the next round of funding. So there's an obligation we have to report on meeting our targets.
That was CBC's Marcy Marcusa speaking with Winnipeg's mayor on Information Radio this morning. You can now watch the full interviews live on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. Well, stay with us. Still ahead, Riley Lachuk is back with your 7-day forecast, and we'll also bring you your daily lift. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News.
Well, I sound like a broken record when I say that we're going to be seeing more above seasonal temperatures across southern Manitoba. So we're looking at 4 degrees for tomorrow, 5s for Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And then this is when we really get this reality check that I'm going to show you right now, because we see some flurries maybe for Monday. Falling temperatures on Tuesday. We start the day at -3, end at -4, and then March, we get double-digit lows, and next Thursday, only a high of -7. So winter is coming. Well, you've probably heard that the old pop song about tying a yellow ribbon around an old oak tree.
Yeah, Riley. Well, they've got a different idea in Regina. Here's your daily lift.
Just like this.
No, they're not putting scarves on the trees to get them ready for the winter. These volunteers with Angels for Warmth in Regina are tying those knitted, crocheted, and quilted items to trees for people who need them this winter.
It's the 9th year they've been doing scarves in the park, and the volunteer group turns out about 13,000 items each year to those who need the kind and the warmth.
Yes, nice gesture.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We'll see you at 11.